The rain came down hard on the streets of Ashenvale. It was like a lot of needles hitting the cobblestones. The rain mixed with some water that was flowing through the gutters. Emma Thorne pushed herself back into the corner of a bakery that was not being used anymore. She was holding a blanket that was all torn up. This blanket was the thing she had, for a really long time. 3 whole months. Her stomach was hurting a lot because she was so hungry. The hunger was not feeling like pain anymore. It was something she felt all the time, like it was a part of her life now. Emma Thorne was feeling the hunger of Ashenvale deeply. The collection wagon was making its way down the street. It came by every week to get the blood tax from people. Every single person in the city owed the court something. If you did not have any money to give them, then you had to give them your blood. The vampire court was very serious about getting what they wanted from the people. If you could not pay the blood tax, then you would vanish and nobody would ever see you again. The vampire court was always collecting the blood tax. People were always afraid of what would happen if they could not pay the vampire court. Emma had been gone for a time now. This all started after the fire that killed her family. After that, she figured out how to be invisible. The key was to hide on the days when people came to collect things and to find enough food to eat until the next week. Emma had been doing this for a year now. She was really good at staying hidden and finding food to survive. The fire that took her family was a sad thing, and it changed Emma's life completely. Emma had to be careful all the time to stay safe. Tonight was the night her luck ran out. She had been pretty lucky for a while. Tonight her luck ran out. Her luck was really good, until tonight, then it just ran out. "You there?" The voice was really loud. It cut through all the rain. It was like a knife. "Step into the light." The person speaking wanted to see the person they were talking to. They wanted them to come out of the dark and into where it was brighter. Emma's blood turned to ice. She knew that voice. Everyone in Ashenvale knew General Cade Voss' voice. General Cade Voss was the king's enforcer and a vampire. General Cade Voss had crushed 17 rebellions and he did not lose one battle. People called General Cade Voss the warlord's shadow. Death followed General Cade Voss like a cloak. This was because General Cade Voss was very good at fighting and killing people. Everyone in Ashenvale was afraid of General Cade Voss. She was able to run. The small alleys behind the bakery went to the sewers, and the collectors would not go there. Her legs would not move. A basic part of her brain knew that running away from something that wants to hurt you only makes things worse for you. The old sewers and the collectors were not a mix, so the sewers were a good place to go, but her legs still would not move. The collectors were the problem and the old sewers were the solution, but she could not make herself run to the old sewers. Emma took a step forward. Then she was standing in the light of the street lamp. The street lamp was shining down on her. Emma was right in the middle of the glow that the street lamp was giving off. The general was really tall, 6.5 feet. He wore an uniform that fit him perfectly even on a rainy day. His face was like a work of art with lines and a cold kind of beauty. What really caught her attention were his eyes. The general's eyes were not red like the eyes of the vampires. The general's eyes were gray, like the color of the sky when a storm is coming. The general's eyes looked at her in a way that she could not understand. "Name?" It wasn't a question. "Emma Thorne, sir. He told me that I missed the collection." He moved closer to me. I could see that each step he took was very precise and controlled. I had not paid my taxes for 3 months. The taxes were unpaid, for a time. He said that by law he should take me to the blood houses because of this. The blood houses are not a place to be. He was talking about the taxes and the blood houses. The blood houses are really places. People go in. They do not come out very often. Emma saw the people who did come out. They looked really bad. Their eyes were empty. They seemed broken. The blood houses had hurt them a lot. Emma saw that their arms were all scarred. This was because they had been bitten times by the things that lived in the blood houses. The blood houses were where these things ate blood from humans. Emma said this in a voice. She was being completely truthful because that was all she had now. I have no money, Emma said. I have no family to turn to. I have no home to go back to. All I have is myself, Emma. The general said this again, you. He looked at her. He saw the blanket that was all torn up, the shoes that were barely held together with some string, and her cheeks that were really thin because she did not eat much. The general was talking about the king's law. He asked her, do you think you do not have to follow the king's law because of you the way you are? The general was talking about the king's law and how it applied to her. No sir, I know that the thing we are talking about does not work that way. Something flickered across his face. It was surprise maybe. Most people. They bargained or they wept when they were in a tough spot, like this. But not Emma. Emma just stood there in the rain. She was waiting for whatever came, whatever happened to Emma. I do not think the workhouses are an idea. The workhouses do provide food. The workhouses do provide shelter. You have to do labor to get the food from the workhouses and the shelter from the workhouses. I just do not think it is an idea to go to the workhouses and do labor for the food and the shelter. Emma's jaw got really tight. I tried to get in, Emma said. But they would not let Emma in. They turned Emma away. Why? She pulled back her sleeve. You could see the burned scars on her left arm. These scars went all the way from her wrist to her shoulder. They said I was damaged goods, she said. They told me I was not worth feeding because of the burned scars on her arm. The general looked at the scars for a long time. Then he spoke again. His voice was different. It was still calm. He was still in charge, but you could tell something was different underneath. The general's voice had. It was like something had moved inside of him. What happened to your skin? Those burns look really bad. How did you get those burns on your body? There was a house fire. This happened 4 years ago. Emma's throat got all tight. She said, I tried to pull my brother out of the house that was on fire. I did not make it in time to save my brother. The silence between them was really quiet. It was. The rain was hitting the cobblestones hard. The collection wagon was far away. You could hear its bell ringing as it went to the next district. The sound of the rain on the cobblestones was loud. The collection wagon's bell was ringing as the collection wagon moved away. The general said, come with me. After a while, Emma's heart skipped a beat. To the blood houses? To the palace. That was really bad. Everyone knew what went on at the palace. King Silas Nightborn had a lot of servants. They were there just to make him happy and to feed him. Most of these humans were very pretty. Emma looked at herself. She was all skin and bones with a lot of scars. Her clothes were wet from the rain. She felt miserable. She was not the kind of person the vampire court liked. The vampire court wanted people, not someone like Emma with all her sharp bones and scars. King Silas Nightborn and his vampire court were very picky about the humans they kept around them. I do not understand what is going on. The thing is, I just do not get it. I am having a hard time figuring out this situation with the information I have about the problem. The problem is that I do not understand it. The general said, you do not need to understand. You need to obey. The general's hand closed around her wrist. It was not tight enough to hurt her. It was firm enough that she could not pull away from the general. The king needs people to help him, the general said. You will work in the king's kitchens. If you do this, you will have food to eat, a place to live. The king will consider your debt paid. Why? The word came out of Emma's mouth before she could catch it. Why would you want to help me? The general's gray eyes looked at hers, and for a short time she saw something behind the cold way he acted. It looked a lot like he was hurting inside. That I am not helping you. I am making you help me. There is a difference between the two things. I am forcing you to do something, which is what I mean by conscripting you. Conscription is when someone makes you do something you do not want to do. As he took Emma through the wet streets to the big dark palace that stood out in a Shenvale, Emma felt that the vampire everyone was scared of had just told her something that was not true. The palace was really big. It was made of a dark shiny stone. Emma did not like this one bit. The vampire was supposed to be honest with her. She looked at the palace. Then at the vampire. The vampire was taking her to this dark place and Emma was not sure what to do. The streets were empty and quiet because of the rain. Emma felt scared and alone as she walked with the vampire towards the palace in a Shenvale. The big doors of the palace creaked open. Emma walked inside to a place that was really pretty. There was marble on the floor and torches on the walls that made flickering shadows. The curtains were made of velvet and the lights were made of gold. Emma knew that the palace was also a place of great sadness and pain. The palace was a place where people had been hurt. That made all the beauty feel strange. Emma saw the palace gates. She thought about the people who had suffered to make this place so beautiful. The palace was a world of beauty. It was also a world of blood and suffering. She did not know it yet. She had just spoken the one word that would change the entire situation, for the woman. The woman had just said this one word. It was going to change everything for her. This one word was very important. The word was truth. The palace kitchens were really crazy. Emma picked up on the routine fast because she had to in order to get by. She would wake up before the sun came up, make breakfast for the court. The vampire court did not really eat food, but they still wanted it made for them. It was all about showing off their power. After that, Emma would scrub the copper pots until she could see herself in them. Then she would go to her small bed in the servants' quarters and fall asleep. The palace kitchens and the vampire court were a part of her life now. It was still better than the streets. Thomas Gray found her on her day. She was sitting there with a big pile of potatoes that she had to peel. Thomas Gray was a lot older than her. He was probably 50 years old. He had nice eyes and his hands were rough, from working in the kitchen for a long time. Thomas Gray looked like someone who had been doing this kind of work for years and years. The man said, "You are the one General Voss brought in." It did not sound like he was really asking. Emma just kept on peeling. She looked up. Said, "Is that a problem?" "It depends. The general does not usually notice street kids. This makes people very curious about the street kids. The general is not really paying attention to the street kids, so when something happens it makes people wonder about the street kids. I think people should just focus on their lives and not worry about what other people are doing. People should mind their business and let others live their lives the way they want to. It is really annoying when people stick their nose into people's business. People should mind their business and respect other people's privacy." Thomas laughed. It was a nice sound. This sound did not seem to fit in the palace. He said, "That is an answer. You will be okay here if you remember that." Then Thomas stopped talking for a moment. Thomas said, "You should know that there are people who do not like it when things are disrupted in the palace. The order of things is important to these people." Lady Raven Blackthorn is the one he was talking about. Emma saw Lady Raven Blackthorn from away. Lady Raven Blackthorn was walking down the hall in a black dress that looked like it was made of really dark silk. Her black hair was falling down her like water. Lady Raven Blackthorn is the person who advises the king. People say Lady Raven Blackthorn wants to be in charge of everything. Emma said that she is a kitchen worker. She said this softly. The kitchen worker, Emma, is not causing any problems. The kitchen worker, Emma, is being very calm about the thing. You were alive when you should have been dead. For some people that is a deal in itself. You existed when you should have died, and that is something that really gets to some people. That night Emma was called to the throne room. Emma had to go to the throne room that night. The throne room was where Emma had to be that night. The room was really big with high ceilings and columns that had pictures of vampires winning battles carved into them. King Silas Nightborn was sitting on a throne made of rock, and he looked just like what he was. A vampire who had been alive for 800 years. His face did not look old all, and it was mean. His eyes were the same color as blood that had just been spilled, a deep red color. King Silas Nightborn had a face that showed he was a vampire. General Cade Voss was standing next to him, and you could not tell what General Cade Voss was thinking because his face did not show any feelings. Lady Raven Blackthorn was standing next to him on his left side. She had a smile on her face. It was really sharp. It was like broken glass, you know the way it can cut you if you are not careful. Lady Raven Blackthorn was looking pretty scary, with that smile. The king said to the general, "This is the creature you got from the gutters." The king's voice was really smooth. You could tell he was not a man to mess with. The creature, the king said, does not look like much of a creature, at all. The woman was good enough to work in the kitchen, Your Majesty, Cade said. His voice was totally normal. Lady Raven looked at her. Said, "Did she really?" Her eyes sparkled with curiosity. "I wonder what is going on here." "Tell me, girl," Lady Raven said, "what makes you special enough for the king to help you?" Emma lifted her chin. She felt like she should be on her knees begging for something. Every part of her wanted to make herself look tiny and weak. Then she saw something in General Voss' gray eyes that made her stop. It was like his eyes were telling her to be strong. Something about General Voss' eyes made Emma feel like she could face him without looking. General Voss' gray eyes were really calm. That helped Emma to be calm too. "Nothing, my lady. I do not feel I am worthy. I will work very hard to earn my place with the people I want to be a good person and to make you proud of me, my lady. I want to be able to say that I have earned my place and that I am a person, and that is what I will do, my lady." The king said this with a smile. "You have to work." He thought this was funny. "That is an old-fashioned idea," the king said. Then he asked, "Do you know why we have humans working for us, the king?" "To feed from, Your Majesty." He said, "This is only partly true. Really it is to help us remember what we have accomplished. You are alive because we allow you to be. Your life is important only if we say it is." He leaned forward. "Do you get what I am saying about your life and what we think about it?" Emma thought about her brother. She thought about the fire that had changed everything. Then she thought about the 3 months she spent sleeping in alleys and eating food from trash bins. Emma remembered all the people who saw her scars and thought she was not good enough, that she was worthless because of what had happened to her because of her scars. "I know that you think that, Your Majesty. You really believe that, and I get it. Your Majesty, I am aware that this is what you think." The temperature in the room really went down by 10 degrees. It was like the room got a lot colder all of a sudden. The temperature. It felt really cold. Lady Raven's smile was completely gone. She said, "How do you dare talk to the king like that? King Silas. It sounded really scary, like when you break a bunch of bones." He said, "Oh, she is really feisty." "That is great. General Voss, you have brought me something that's actually fun to play with." His red eyes were staring at Emma. He said, "Okay, let us see what you can do. You will work at the banquet tomorrow. You will serve me personally. If I like you, you get to keep your job. If you put me to sleep, well." He waved his hand around. "The bloodhouses are always looking for new people to join them, so you will go there if you do not make me happy." Emma was let go with a wave of the hand. She walked out of the throne room. Her legs were trembling. Emma felt like people were staring at her back as she walked away. Then in the hallway someone grabbed Emma's arm. General Voss pulled her into a shadowed alcove. His face was harder than she had ever seen General Voss' face before. It really looked hard. General Voss' eyes were serious. General Voss' jaw was tight. What was going through your mind when you did that? He said this quietly, but you could tell he was scared. You just do not mess with the king. The man asked me a question. I told him the truth. I was very honest when I answered the question. The question was important to him. I made sure I answered the question, in a good way. Being honest is not an idea, in this place. If you tell the truth, it can get you into a lot of trouble. Honesty will get you killed here. People do not want to hear the truth. It is better to keep quiet. Honesty is not something that is appreciated in this place. Then maybe this place deserves to fall. Those words came out of Emma's mouth before she could catch them. Emma did not mean to say that this place deserves to fall. The words were already out. Cade's hand tightened on her arm. He just looked at her for a long time, his gray eyes looking for something. Then something weird happened, his face actually got a little softer. Cade's expression. His gray eyes did not seem as hard as they were before. He said, I sound like someone he used to know. His voice was really away, like he was remembering something. A time ago he said that. I really want to know what happened to those people. What did they? What happened to them afterwards? I am very curious about what happened to them. The king had my sister executed for treason. My sister was a person and I loved her very much. The king did a thing when he had my sister executed for treason. I will never forget what the king did to my sister. The dungeons under the palace had a lot more in them than Lady Raven Blackthorn. Emma found this out 3 weeks after the party, when Thomas took her down some secret passages that the servants were not supposed to know about. The general asked me to bring you, Thomas said in a quiet voice. He was holding a torch. It was making crazy shadows on the stone walls. The general said, you need to see something. They went down deeper past the rooms where they kept people who did bad things, past the places where they stored blood, down to the levels that were built before the palace was even made. Here the walls were made of stone and the air had a really old taste to it, like it had been around for centuries, the centuries that the palace itself had been standing for. General Cade Voss stood in a room deep under the ground. General Cade Voss was not by himself in the room. The room was packed with people. There were humans and vampires. The vampires did not look like the ones Emma had seen at the royal court. The vampires in this room had eyes that were amber, green or blue, not like the others. They wore clothes and they all stared at Emma with a look of hope that seemed really desperate. The vampires and the humans were all watching Emma. Emma said, "What is this?" Her voice was barely audible. Cade said this quietly. He was talking about the resistance. What is left of the resistance? These are people who still remember the days. The days when vampires and humans lived together as equals. This was before King Silas came along. King Silas decided that having power was more important than having peace. The resistance is about vampires and humans living as equals. Vampires and humans used to be equals before King Silas messed things up. An older vampire woman came up to us. Her hair was a silver color and it was braided with tiny bones. Her eyes were an amber color and they seemed to know a lot of things that happened a long time ago. "I am Helena Ashworth," she said. "I used to be part of the group that made decisions the council before Silas took over and said he was the king." The vampire woman, Helena Ashworth, and her people have been hiding for a long time, 800 years, just waiting for something to happen. Waiting for what? For someone who can say what is really going on and not get in trouble. For someone the general thinks is trustworthy enough to go against what the king says. Helena looked at her intensely. "For you, Emma Thorne." Emma looked at Cade. "You brought me here to join the rebellion?" She said this because Emma was wondering why Cade brought her to this place. Emma wanted to know what the rebellion was about. Was the rebellion something that Emma should be a part of? Emma looked at Cade. Waited for him to tell her more about the rebellion. "I brought you here because you reminded me why I became a soldier." It is a reason that I have not thought about for a long time. His voice sounded rough because he was feeling a lot of emotion that he had kept hidden for a long time, for centuries. My sister died because she tried to tell people about the things Silas was doing. I was too scared to stand up for her. I have felt bad about that every day since it happened. I have been feeling bad about being a coward and not helping my sister when she needed me. I have been thinking about my sister. What happened to her a lot lately, and it made me remember why I became a soldier in the first place, to fight for what is right, and that is what you are doing, fighting for what is right just like my sister did. And now? I am finished being scared. I do not want to be afraid of things. Being afraid is something that I am done with. Over the few weeks Emma found out what really happened. King Silas was not always in charge. He was a vampire who wanted more power and was very smart. He started a fight against the people in charge, saying they were not doing a job and were taking things for themselves. The people who did not agree with him were killed. The people who said they would do what he wanted became his followers. King Silas changed the way people thought about the past. He made vampires seem like they were always trying to hurt humans, and humans were just trying to survive, all so he could stay in control of everything. King Silas did all of this to keep his power over the vampires and the humans. The resistance had kept records of the days. These records were proof that things used to be different. A time ago vampires and humans worked together. They helped each other out. Humans would give vampires their blood. In return, vampires would keep them safe. This system worked well for both vampires and humans. They were both happy and successful. The vampires and humans were able to thrive because of this arrangement. Emma said we need to show people the truth. She was looking at the papers that were all over the table. The thing is, Silas is in charge of everything, so that is a problem for us. We want to tell people what is really going on. Silas controls the truth, and that makes it very hard for us to show people the truth. Thomas cleared his throat. The spring festival is coming up. It is going to be in 3 days. The spring festival will have every person who lives in Ashenvale gathered in the central square. They will all be there to hear what the king has to say. If we could find a way to interrupt the king's address during the spring festival, that would be something. Helena thought about this for a moment. We would need to get into the palace's communication center. The palace's communication center is always heavily guarded. Cade said, I can get us in. He is still the general. The general said that they will follow his orders because he is the general. Until they figure out that you have turned against them, Emma said back. Then the people you betrayed will definitely kill you. We should make this thing count then. The plan was really bad. It would likely fail, but it was their only hope. Emma spent 2 days learning her speech by heart, the things she would say to thousands of people who had been told that struggling was just the way life is. The night before the festival was about to start, Cade found her standing on the palace ramparts. She was looking out at the city. The festival was. Cade found her on the palace ramparts staring out at the city, thinking about the festival. He told me that I do not have to do this. We could get me out of Ashenvale. He said we could take me somewhere that's safe. There is no place that's safe. Not as long as Silas is in charge. Emma turned around to look at him. Why did you really help me that night? I want to know the truth about what happened with Silas and why you saved me. Cade was really quiet for a long time. He said, you looked at me like I was still a person, like Cade was not a monster. Nobody had looked at Cade like that. In 300 years it was a long time, and Cade was surprised. You saw something in Cade that nobody else saw, something that made Cade feel like Cade was still human. You're not a monster. I have done some bad things because I worked for a very bad king. The king is a person, and I did terrible things for him. The things I did were so bad that they are scary to think about. I am talking about the king when I say that he is bad. The king is the one I did things for. Then do something beautiful instead. The day the central square of Ashenvale was really crowded with people. King Silas was standing on the balcony getting ready to talk to the people of Ashenvale. Lady Raven was out of the dungeons now. She was standing behind King Silas looking very angry but trying not to show it too much. Below in the communication center, Emma watched as Cade took down the guards. He did it with ease like he had done this before. Thomas was busy working the controls. His fingers were moving fast over all the buttons and switches. Emma saw that Thomas and Cade were working together, Thomas working the controls and Cade taking care of the guards. Thomas said, "We have 30 seconds. Thomas was really serious when he said 30 seconds. Emma's heart was beating fast against her ribs. She was thinking about her brother and all the people who had a time when Silas was in charge. Emma was also thinking about the fact that today could be the day that things might actually get better. Emma thought that today might really change something for her brother and all the people who suffered under Silas' rule. 10 seconds. The screens around the square started to flicker. Then the picture of King Silas was. Emma's face was on the screens instead. The screens were showing Emma's face now. "People of Ashenvale," she said. Her voice was steady. She was really scared. She did not sound scared. "You have been told that this is how things are supposed to be. People think that humans are here to do what they are told. They think that vampires are in charge and they get to make all the rules. They think that it is okay for people to suffer. That is not true. People of Ashenvale, it is all a lie." She held up the papers and the cameras took pictures of the council stamps, the signatures of the vampires and the humans. The cameras got a shot of the council stamps on the ancient documents and the signatures of the vampires and the humans that were on them. 800 years ago, humans and vampires lived together in a pretty good way. The vampires helped keep the town safe from bad people. Humans would give the vampires some of their blood so they could stay healthy. This way of living worked out well for both humans and vampires. They were all doing fine. Then this one vampire, Silas Nightborn, he did not think that living together as equals was good enough for him. Silas Nightborn wanted to be in charge of everything. King Silas was really angry on the balcony. He was so upset that King Silas started yelling. Then a lot of guards ran into the communication center where King Silas was. Emma went on, her words coming out fast now. "He killed the council," she said. "He changed our past. He made up the blood tax and the workhouses and all the bad things that happened to people just so he could stay in charge. The thing is, you do have power. You are strong. You have people with you. The council is not the only one. You are not by yourself. You have people who care about the blood tax and the workhouses and all the suffering, and they want to help you." The door swung open fast. Cade stepped in front of Emma. He had his sword out and ready. Cade was trying to protect Emma. The man said, "I am General Cade Voss." His voice was loud and clear through the speakers over Ashenvale. He told us that he worked for a ruler for 300 years. Now General Cade Voss wants to be free. Today General Cade Voss is choosing freedom. The guards stopped in their tracks. They had always done what Cade told them to do. Cade was the one they looked up to. They had followed Cade's orders for as long as they could remember. The guards were not sure what to do because they were used to following Cade's orders. Emma said this quietly, looking at the guards who were standing in the doorway, not at the cameras. "You can join us," Emma said. "Or you can keep working for a king who does not care about you. He just sees the guards as things to use. The decision is up to the guards. It is the guards' choice." One of the guards lowered his weapon. Then another guard did the thing. Then all of the guards put down their weapons. The square was filled with people. They all started cheering. They were not scared, they were just really loud. A lot of people were. It was a very big noise. The people in the square had been quiet for a long time, but now the crowd was finally speaking up and the crowd was using their voices to make some noise. The crowd in the square was very happy to be loud. Helena and the resistance came out of their hiding places. They gave out copies of the old documents to everyone. The truth about what was going on spread very quickly through the streets. People were talking about the truth, and Helena and the resistance were the ones who made this happen by sharing the ancient documents. King Silas tried to run. He got far as the room where the king sits before the people who were supposed to be on his side turned against him. King Silas had made a lot of people really angry and scared over the years. All of this anger and fear came out at the time. Lady Raven was the one to attack King Silas. She was very upset because King Silas had used her for his purposes and then got rid of her. The sun came up the morning and Ashenvale was finally free. Emma stood in the square feeling really tired and totally overwhelmed as Helena talked to the crowd. The council was going to be changed. They were going to make laws. It was going to take the council a lot of years to fix all the things Silas had done, but the council was going to start making changes today. The council had a job ahead of them to undo all the damage Silas had done to the council. Emma was watching as Helena told the crowd that the council would start working on this today. Cade found her when the crowd was gone. His gray eyes looked different, they seemed lighter, like something heavy had been taken away from him. Cade saw the change in his gray eyes, and it was a nice feeling, like a weight had finally been lifted from Cade's gray eyes. He looked at me. Said, "What will you do now?" I was taken aback by the question. The man wanted to know what I was going to do. "What will you do now?" that is what he asked me. Emma looked at the city. She saw people hugging each other in the streets. The future was happening in front of the city. Emma thought about the girl. This girl had hidden in a space 3 months ago. The girl was sure she would die all by herself and that nobody would even remember her. Emma thought about this girl and the city. What the future held for the city and the girl. She wants us to help rebuild. We have to make sure that this kind of thing never happens again. She smiled at me. Then she asked, "What about the people, like me?" He said, "The same." Then he stopped talking for a moment. His sister would have really liked the person he was talking to. I really wish I could have known her. She is someone I think about a lot. I wish I had the chance to meet her and talk to her. I want to know what she was like. I want to know her. You did do that in a way. You finished what that woman started. Thomas came out of the palace with a tray. The tray had bread and fruit on it. "I thought you two might be hungry," he said. "I brought you some food, not the bad food we gave to the people at the court." Thomas said this because he wanted them to have something to eat. He did not want them to eat the food that the court people had. Thomas brought them the bread and fruit from the palace. They sat on the steps of the palace eating bread that was still warm from the oven. They watched as Ashenvale woke up to its very first day of being free. The people of Ashenvale were finally free. They were eating bread and watching Ashenvale. It was a sight to see Ashenvale wake up to freedom. Emma said one word. That was it. That one word changed everything for her. It was not really the word that was important. It was what the word meant to Emma. She did not want to think that people being cruel was the way things were. Emma wanted to believe that what was true was important, even if it was easier to tell lies. The word Emma spoke was about the truth mattering to her. Getting justice had seemed like it would never happen in a world that's clearly not fair. The idea of justice had seemed impossible in a world built on things that read just not right, a world that is really all about injustice. Things that cannot happen really do happen every day. Impossible things are actually happening all the time. We see things happening every day. You just had to be brave enough to speak them into existence.